Are we live?
We are live.
Greetings. The meeting of the Open Space and Ecology Committee will now come to order. The vast multitudes assembled out there. Prepare for some action.
Danger chair, danger.
So the first order of business, I believe, is to approve the agenda. Has everybody had a chance to look at it?
Yep.
Anybody have any burning issues that should be included?
Oh.
May I have a motion to approve?
I move to approve.
I'll
Thank you.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the agenda is adopted, and we're really glad to have with us. Could you back up a screen, please? Justin Yuen, Public Works intern, who's going to talk to us about electric vehicles and autonomous vehicles. So thank you very much for coming and for waiting for us.
All right, I'm going to go switch over.
Okay. Yeah, thank you once again for giving me the opportunity to come back and do another one of these fun and interesting presentations about something cutting edge and interesting. So tonight I'll be talking about something that you're probably aware of all throughout the media. This is a really exciting time in the transportation industry, and that is the development of autonomous vehicles and electric vehicles, which is something that's really fascinating and cutting edge and relevant to the potential of these vehicles to address the environmental impacts of motorized transportation. So first of all, what is an autonomous vehicle, or an AV as it's easier to say? So there are 5 or 6 levels of autonomy, ranging from mostly driver involvement to no driver involvement at all. But for this presentation, I'll be focusing on that top tier, level 5, which is full automation. And so usually when the media refers to an autonomous car or a self-driving car or a driverless car, they're referring to that level, full automation, no driver input. The car does all the work in driving itself and in navigating itself. So this is a brief summary of the anatomy of a typical test AV. So basically what an AV has is a LiDAR system, which is what's sitting there on the roof, and that's a spinning sensor that basically gathers all the spatial info of the car's surroundings. It basically gathers several 100,000 data points per second, which is a lot, and it's extremely advanced compared to one of those Google Earth Street View cars, which, I mean, because all that does is snap a picture every 50 feet. This works way harder than one of those. A typical autonomous car also has a video camera for detecting pedestrians and bicyclists coming in from the side, radar for determining the distance between cars in front of and behind the vehicle, as well as a position estimator, which you can see on the right there, which basically tracks the exact location of the car. So right now, as of June of this year, 19 states have actually passed legislation regarding the regulation of autonomous cars. And I think since 2012, at least 41 states have considered passing legislation for AVs, but 19 of those have actually done something. And I think the Department of Transportation right now, I think they're working on a bill at the federal level to streamline regulation of autonomous cars, because right now what we have is patchwork regulations between states that aren't very consistent, and then the manufacturers that are testing have to work around those. So hopefully that'll streamline the process. As far as testing goes, California so far has granted AV permits to 30 companies, including Uber and Lyft. Uber right now, I don't know if you've heard, a few months ago, they had a little conflict with the city of San Francisco for not obtaining the proper permits for testing, and they had to move to Arizona. And right now they're still testing on city streets. Lyft has, I think they've just opened a testing facility in Palo Alto, so they'll be doing some testing down in Silicon Valley too. I don't know if they're actually doing testing on public streets, but they do have a designated facility for that. Right. So this is mostly speculation right now, but the major automakers like Ford and BMW and Volvo, they anticipate the rollout of the first fully autonomous production cars by the early 2020s, which is pretty amazing, given that how far that technology has come in a relatively short time. But it's not certain whether the first models will be available for sale to private consumers, or if they'll only be used by ride-sharing fleets operated by a company like Uber. But I can guarantee that the first few models will be very expensive at first. They'll probably be several $100,000 each in the initial phase. So now we'll move on to electric vehicles, or EVs, not to be confused with AVs. So the definition of an EV is that it has an electric motor working to some capacity. So a conventional hybrid or an HEV is, that would be your standard Prius. That has an internal combustion engine and then a battery that works in tandem that powers the car at low speeds and is recharged by regenerative braking. But usually when the media and regulators refer to EVs, they're referring to plug-in electric vehicles. So the latter two that you can see on your screen. And those are plug-in hybrid vehicles, which work similar to a conventional hybrid, except that in this case the battery is charged by an external power source by plugging it in. So you get a certain amount of electric-only range before the gas engine kicks in. And then at that point, the car operates like a conventional hybrid. And then you have battery electric vehicles, which are fully electric vehicles like a Tesla or Nissan Leaf. And those obviously don't use any gas at all, and they're charged. Their batteries are charged by an external power source as well. So right now, the EV industry is a lot more developed and mature than the current state of autonomous vehicles. So right now in the U.S., electric vehicles, plug-in hybrids and battery electric vehicles, so not conventional hybrids, those take up a 1% market share in the U.S., whereas places like Norway, which have heavy investment in charging infrastructure network and aggressive government subsidies, they have a 30% market share of EVs. And actually in some cities in Norway, EVs hold a 50% market share. Right now there are about 16,000 public charging stations in the U.S. and counting, compared to 120,000 gas stations. And if you can see on that graph, I don't know, it's kind of faded, but you can see how far we've come in the last 7 years, because at 2010, it was less than 1,000, probably less than 500 charging stations at that time. But now we've grown to 16,000 and counting. For the future...
Do you know what 1% of the market is for 16,000 public charging stations?
What do you mean by that?
I mean, I'm just wondering what the 1% equals.
Oh, 1% of the vehicles sold.
Yeah, but we don't know what that means, right?
No.
How many vehicles are
No, and 16,000 charging stations compared to 120,000 gas stations. That's almost 10%, but
It's pretty cool, because that's what I was looking at. It's only 1% of the market share.
Yeah, but keep in mind that a charging station accommodates only 1 or 2 cars per station, whereas a gas station can accommodate 10, 12. Yeah, right. Or at Costco 30. For the future, there's a lot of countries and international agencies around the world that are stepping up to meet the anticipated growing demand of EVs. So the International Energy Agency set a target of 30% EV sales worldwide by 2030. And then France, as of, I think, earlier this month, planned to ban the sale of all gas and diesel cars by 2040. And as of today, actually, the UK has also pledged to do the same, to ban the sale of gas and diesel cars, excluding conventional hybrids. So all cars that operate solely on petrol or diesel.
That's amazing.
Yeah. In San Mateo County, on a local level, there are about 39,000 hybrids, conventional hybrids, in operation, which is an 87% increase in the last 5 years.
That's amazing.
But then even more amazing is that 7,700 EVs have been sold in the county, making up a 732% increase in the last 5 years.
Wow.
And then the Bay Area Air Quality Management District, following the success of EV adoption, has decided to set goals for adoption rates in the future. So by 2020, they hope to see 110,000 EVs sold. And then, and then 30 years after that, they hope to see 95 to 100% of all vehicles sold in the Bay Area as EVs. So currently, AVs and EVs they're different technologies, but they're often incorporated in the same vehicles for testing purposes right now. So Uber and Lyft are doing testing with autonomous cars, but their autonomous cars are actually modified on electric powertrains. So of all the AVs that are currently being tested, 58% utilize an electric powertrain, while 21% utilize a hybrid powertrain. So that's about 80% of autonomous vehicles being tested that sit on a hybrid or an electric system. So most of the AVs that are tested are they're tested in dense urban areas like downtown San Francisco, for example. So it's convenient that charging infrastructure is more robust in these downtown areas, in these urban areas where the cars are being tested. So that's another reason that manufacturers that test AVs want to utilize electric powertrains, because in a place like downtown in the city, it seems that electric vehicle charging stations are more common than gas stations. It's also easier for onboard computers to control the electric powertrains in AVs. It's easier, I guess, to sync up the programming between the autonomous system and the electric propulsion system. And also there's the industry-wide desire of manufacturers and ride-sharing companies to speed up and accelerate the adoption of these vehicle technologies. So that makes it easier for it just makes sense to develop them together. So, as my professor puts it, there's a utopia scenario and a dystopia scenario for the rollout of autonomous vehicles. So this best case and then the following the worst case scenario. It's hypothetical. This is assuming the best all the conditions and the factors are right for AVs, and the environmental benefits are maximized. So in this utopia, we would have AV technology incorporated with electric vehicle technology. So we would have we would see the two technologies merging, and we would see that AVs would actually utilize electric powertrains as much as possible. Another characteristic is that AVs would be used primarily for shared use rather than for personal use. So they would, the majority of them would be used by, ride-sharing companies like Uber, Lyft, or car-sharing companies like Zipcar, and the idea would be to minimize, or in this scenario, personal vehicle ownership would be kept to a minimum. So as a result, we would see that traffic flow and capacity would be improved because AVs are programmed to behave differently from human drivers. They're less prone to road rage, and they don't slow down to look at accidents and they're less prone to looking at accidents on the other side of the freeway. So that's something to think about. And of course, there's benefits to safety because of that. There's less chance for human error. Another interesting point is that is with this utopia, we could see the creation of more dense, walkable urban mixed-use communities because AVs used for these ride-sharing purposes would be conducive to more urban walkable communities, and they would complement public transit and other modes because they're not being utilized for personal use. So people feel less inclined to travel, in single vehicles. The most important benefit of all is the impacts to the environment as a result. So with less, with lower utilization of the motorized vehicle, we could see a reduction of vehicle miles traveled and the associated emissions and air pollutants. And then there's the dystopia scenario, which I don't think any of us want to see happen, but could be a possibility depending on conditions. So in this scenario, we would see that AVs and EVs would not necessarily be incorporated into the same vehicles. We would see the perpetuation of gas-powered vehicles. In this scenario, AVs would be primarily owned by private consumers and used by private consumers as opposed to carpooling and ride sharing. And we could see that, hopefully not, but inadequate testing and development could lead to malfunctions and other serious problems with the rollout of these new vehicles. So as a result, we could see increased congestion due to the whole concept of zombie cars, which are cars that drive around with nobody in them. Because if you imagine, if you own an autonomous car and you decide to go into the city or the suburbs to run an errand, and you have your car drop you off at the restaurant while you eat, or drops you off at the store, and you take your time shopping, and it's just wandering the streets looking for parking or doing something to occupy its time. That's
for trouble.
Yeah, that's
Cruising 16.
exactly.
Hanging out with the kids on the playground.
Ready to rumble.
It's like Toy Story. We don't know what the cars will do when the humans aren't around.
Well, that is interesting.
Yeah, so that means more cars out there on the road, and that's just a waste of energy. As a result of inadequate testing, we could see little to no improvement in safety if they're not programmed thoroughly enough to be able to handle the situations that humans are able to deal with by using their critical thinking skills. AVs might not be programmed as thoroughly to be able to handle those. And then we could see the perpetuation of urban sprawl as a result of heavy personal ownership. There's no incentive for people to drive less. It's increasing the comfort factor so that people wouldn't want to go back to, they wouldn't feel the desire or the need to use transit or alternative modes. They can just ride around in comfort and have their car do all the work for them. And unfortunately, as a result of that, we would see an increase in VMT and in emissions and worsening local air pollution. So that's all I have. Here's just an assortment of electric vehicles that are currently on the market, except for that Tesla Model 3. That's still, if you're on the list, you might still be waiting a couple of years for that one. And then a few of the autonomous cars that companies like Google and Ford are testing currently. So if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
I have a question. And this is really great. Thank you. Wonderful information that you're presenting, and I appreciate you coming in here to share this with us. When you talk about the dystopian and utopian scenarios, what do you see as the primary levers to influence the adoption of the utopian scenario? Are they economic, or are they regulatory, or are they technological? Like, what factors can influence it? Because if we look at electric vehicles right now, I know people who drive $160,000 Teslas, and they couldn't give a crap about sharing their car with anyone else. They're very happy to drive it by themselves to work, and the fact that they don't have to keep their hands on the steering wheel as they sit in traffic from San Jose to Redwood City really doesn't bother them. And I don't really see that attitude changing. When you talk about trying to influence private ownership, I mean, you're kind of scratching at a bedrock. I'm not saying it's a good one, but it's sort of a bedrock value of our current culture, which highlights private ownership over the public good. And so, in terms of I actually see us moving to this dystopian scenario really quickly, and we're actually almost there. So what are the policy? What are the levers that we could use, either through regulation or other factors that could guide things towards the utopian scenario?
Yeah, that's an interesting point. So, I mean, right now it's just speculation because it'll take decades for this type of technology to be widely adopted. There's a long transition period before we get to these scenarios directly, but the interim will probably influence that. So on the regulatory side, these conditions could be influenced by but by the federal laws that are being worked out right now to streamline the AV development process. But that's not the only factor. There's also land use and transit policies, I think, that could play a part, because the power of the manufacturers to influence consumer attitude is pretty significant. But I do think we need some regulatory instruments in there to influence behavior, and I think the best way to do that is to address land use, and because we can improve multimodal systems so much, but ultimately it comes down to how our cities are laid out, and I think that'll play a big part in how AVs are utilized too. And it all depends. It could depend on market conditions, and definitely I think the cultural attitude plays a big part in that. And that's why countries like France and the UK, are moving forward with these ambitious goals to speed up the EV adoption process, whereas other countries like the U.S. and and China and Australia aren't doing as much because the cultural attitudes just aren't at the same levels.
Yeah.
It'd be a big change when you've got a commuter lane that only has the AVs in there and Teslas aren't allowed in there anymore.
Oh, Teslas will be the first AVs or among the first.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that kind of gets to my concern is the early adopters of these technologies are going to be rich people. They're not going to be poor people. Nobody, even the Model 3 is a relatively expensive car compared to, some of the current budget cars, if you will. So, as that adoption increases, the people who will be the stakeholders in that are going to be people who don't see a need to share, or they'll.
But when you're in a car share and you're looking at AVs and you're at a Tesla or whatever, and somebody's not sharing that car with someone else, 2 or 3 people, they won't be in the fast lane anymore. You won't just have to be an EV to be in the fast lane, because right now you can be an EV and be in the fast lane. You don't need to have 2 people in your car.
You can also just pay and take your single car and go into those lanes.
Get that little sticker.
Yeah, so we're already making it easier for people to circumvent the whole purpose of high occupancy lanes.
Well, one land use thing that might help is limiting the number of parking spaces in new developments. And I think San Francisco's already doing that. Haven't they reduced
Yes, definitely.
the number of parking spaces?
They do half, 1 space for every 2 units.
Yeah, I generally think that that's a good idea, but you do potentially push us further down the road of the zombie cars.
Yeah.
Because the car has nowhere to go park while you're at work or whatever if you're not. And then it's just, maybe it drives all the way home and then drives back again to pick you
It could
up.
do that, yeah.
Which
that's
would double the VMT.
Well, you could also have zombie garages where, there's a pile on top of each other
Potentially.
and coming up and down instead of...
One thing you could make like an Uber app that
Fun to talk.
while you're not using your car, you could send it out to work for you.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say that out loud. That sounds like something I should go out and do.
Well, and also public transit. I think the EVs with public transit. That's sort of the ideal way to do it. And it's going to be a mean trick to get all these policies synchronized at once, so that a person buying a new condo or something doesn't have a parking place, but they do have a way to get to work with a shared autonomous vehicle, and can get the other places they need to go on public transit. But nobody plans anything in the United States. That's one of the problems we have.
Yeah, the idea of a truly sustainable transportation network is to reduce motorized vehicle use as much as possible, and to maximize the use of public transit or active transportation modes like walking or bicycling that have just a fraction of the energy consumption per capita compared to motorized vehicles. But I think the fact is that cars probably aren't going to go away in the next 100 years. But the idea is to make the cars that are available as energy efficient, and to lower the impacts, the emissions impacts as much as possible for those modes. But I think there's a broader picture that we have to look at, not just improving vehicle technologies, but looking at the system as a whole.
So one question about EVs. I read somewhere that electric vehicles could be used as storage for the grid to even out the intermittency problem of renewables. And I just wondered if anybody's working on that, and did you run across anything about that, and what some of the possible drawbacks might be?
No, I hadn't heard about that.
Well, a charged EV is effectively a storage battery. And you could, when you're charging it, you hook it up to the grid feeds the car. But when you're not, when you're not using the car, and it's charged, it could conceivably feed back into the grid to level out the electricity supply.
Yeah.
So you've got, millions of batteries around. So if you, let's say, didn't use the whole charge on the car to get to work and you drove it home and it had a lot of charge left, could you then plug it back into the grid and have it feed back the other way to meet, say, peak electricity demand late in the afternoon?
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So that sounds all really cool, but then on the other hand, I think it was you, Barbara, who was saying it's not so good to, the batteries wear out if you continuously charge and discharge, and so I just wondered if you'd read anything about those kinds of things.
No, I hadn't heard about that. It's a really fascinating idea, though.
Yeah.
It is,
Yeah.
yeah.
The only thing I can say to that is when we first bought our Leaf, they were supposed to come out with a thing that would allow you to feed your car back into the house, like in the case of an emergency or something. Like if there was an earthquake or something, you could, run your fridge and your
Yeah, that's
communication
kind of a
devices,
similar idea,
similar
yeah.
idea, off your Leaf, your car battery, and they have not yet come out with that piece of equipment. I'm still waiting because I thought that would be cool. But
Yeah, I mean,
it would be a similar.
I would say
similar
talk to
idea.
Nissan about that. They'd know
Yeah.
more than I would.
yeah, I think Tesla's Powerwall was something along those lines that you now have a battery in the car and a battery in the house, and you can
Yeah.
do stuff. I don't know where that wound up.
Well, it's kind of important because storage is, if we're going to have 100% renewables, we absolutely have to have storage.
Yep.
There's no two ways about that. And building storage is expensive and it has environmental costs. But if you have all these car batteries running around, why couldn't you use them as a big source of storage? So it is really an intriguing idea, but I just wondered if you'd heard anything.
Maybe you can look into it and report back next time.
Yeah, the big disparity between load and renewable energy usually comes between 6 and 9 p.m. at night. So a lot of cars would be home by then and could potentially dump into the grid to level out that kind of that divot.
Yeah.
And then recharge themselves overnight, and then you're ready to go the next morning.
Would that require modifications to the electrical system in your house to be able to do that?
That's what I don't know.
Yeah, that's
Maybe.
that's what I don't know either. But
It's-
like I can get.
Yeah.
It's been mentioned as an idea and as one of the potentials of the smart grid and the smart meters that we all have. Is that you've got
Yeah, the
things that
charge
can
con-
talk to each other.
Yeah, the charge controllers already talk to the cars, so I think it's pretty close to being there, if we can just get our grid smart enough. I don't know. I don't actually.
So that's something for your next presentation.
Yep.
Sure, yeah. I
Yeah, another interesting idea, just riffing on that, is the electric vehicles in bicycles and other formerly human-powered things. Where can we increase the adoption of bicycles as a mode of transportation, or even skateboards, if they give you a power assist to help you go up the hill? Would that get more people riding them? Because then you have an option of taking the car off the road altogether and having a hybrid electric bike.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I don't know if right now bike usage is, I don't know how it's pretty low though.
Yeah.
I don't know if as opposed to an electric car, I think here's the thing about buying an electric car is that in the minds of most consumers, it takes away some of the guilt of actually being in a car. So I think, compared to buying an electric bike, versus buying an electric car, either way, in the minds of most consumers, that guilt of being in a car is wiped out, I think. And I think most people would still opt for the electric car for that comfort factor and for the fact that they still believe that they're not contributing any negative impacts to the environment. But I think the electric bike is, that's an interesting idea. I don't know if that would catch on, but it's something
Actually,
Yeah, go ahead.
Actually, I have friends in Denver who have electric bikes and use them all the time, and they love them.
Oh, really?
But one of the things about Denver as opposed to here, and I think we were talking about this at the Climate Action Plan subcommittee meeting, Denver is high altitude, but it's relatively flat. And riding a bike, you can get all the way through town diagonally, completely off the street, and go by the creek that runs through town. It's a lot safer than here. Yeah. For example, just for me to ride an electric bike, and I've been thinking about it. I think about riding an electric bike. With an electric bike, I could probably get over San Mateo Mountain. But I have a short lap on the freeway to get to San Francisco State, and you can't take an electric bike on the freeway. And there's just some traffic issues that I think are really hard to overcome, even with bike lanes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have an electric bike manufacturer and an electric motorcycle manufacturer in town.
Right.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Who? What are they called?
What's the name
Alta.
of it?
Alta Motors, and what's the other one?
Alta's the motorcycle.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, Alta
It's like a
Motors.
block from here.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, they're over in the industrial.
And
And I can't remember the name of the motorcycle.
I don't.
I mean,
Yeah, the
car,
bicycle.
bicycle.
Monday motorbike.
Yeah. I'm sure Karen has it.
Yeah, and it's an interesting thing for us to be thinking about, because when there were, there have been electric bikes have been around for a while, but there are more, I think, coming online in the industry. And when staff has thought about Brisbane and bike adoption, it just kind of seemed like a non-starter on a large scale. I mean, we did put bike lanes in on Bayshore, but we don't have room for separate bike lanes in town. But maybe that's a safer area, to ride a bike. So
It's also it's just really steep.
well, right. I mean, but with electric bikes,
You don't have
we
to
wouldn't
worry.
be able to put a bike lane in. So would people be inclined to use an electric bike? I mean, I know anecdotally people that have in town.
But could you get an electric bike up, say, Placer Avenue? I mean,
Electric, you could.
could
Yeah,
you?
Because it does its own thing, right?
it gives you an assist,
Yeah, I'm not
So
sure how.
You still have pedals, and what it does is it makes pedaling easier.
It's hard to believe on some of the hills in this town that pedaling would be easy, assist or not.
Yeah.
It's a pretty challenging place to ride a bike
Yeah,
geographically.
absolutely. You look
And
at-
I want to applaud our neighbors who do it, and they are so dedicated and beautiful and out there on their bike shorts.
Exactly.
I'm envious of them, but
And while
Not
we're
joining
talking about electric bikes, the question had come up about Day in the Park, and I don't know if we're ready to go on to that discussion, and we could, but the committee did ask if we could invite someone like that to come to Day in the Park, and I did talk to the city attorney, and he said he didn't see any issue with inviting one manufacturer over another.
Fabulous.
Good.
Great.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Buddy?
Thank you.
Justin, thanks so much.
Thanks a lot.
No problem.
It was
Thank
a
you.
good presentation.
It's always fun to talk about something that's really interesting and cutting edge. So glad to do it.
I guess I do have one final question. That is, why do the electric cars that they actually make not look like your first slide?
Oh,
That was
Oh, that really cool car.
which
Now,
one?
what is that, right?
Oh, this one? I think
That.
Bob can answer that one. Where did you find this?
Bob, that's so cool.
I hadn't seen Justin's presentation, so I need a place marker, and I just with the satellites and I googled early electric vehicle, and the satellites also looked autonomous, so I thought I would.
It is a really great shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
just,
know.
just some more electric car trivia. I think the first electric car was actually built in the early 1900s. I think one of the
Yeah.
first cars were powered by electricity, and then they discovered the internal combustion engine and how efficient that was, and we know where that went.
inefficient.
Yeah.
But
Well, it's also just to be fair. It's interesting you mentioned China, Australia, and the United States as the countries that have been more resistant to electric cars. They're all bigger countries than France and the UK.
And they're less dense.
And so, just thinking about myself, I take a road trip every summer that's about 1,200 miles, and there's no way I could do it in an electric car.
Yeah.
And, somebody living in the Central Valley who commutes a long ways to a job at Walmart, could not do it in an electric car. So I think some of the reason we're slower with it is just because we're a different country, size-wise, much different.
Yeah, that's definitely something to take into consideration in in the development of these systems and the implementation. So.
Yeah, the only way you could use an electric car for a long distance trip is to have battery exchange. And I have no idea where that's going, if anywhere.
Tesla has the supercharger network, so you could drive a Tesla from here to the East Coast and not even have to pay to charge it. And
How long does it take to charge it, though?
like 30 minutes. Long enough to get a cup of
Lunch.
coffee and
Yeah.
My little trivia, according to The Economist magazine, London's public buses in 1916 were all electric, and they were battery exchange. And the guy was a bad businessman. They were private buses, and the city was really disappointed when he went out of business, and the rival bus company, which was combustion engine, took over. There was a big outcry, but the main bus system was all electric. With every 30 minutes, they were dropping batteries and
Really?
yeah. So that was 1916.
Wow.
Wow.
That's really cool.
Yeah, there was a little article about it in The Economist last year.
That
It is really
so
cool.
cool.
So they must have designed the buses to make the batteries easy to get at so they could...
Yeah, they had numerous. You could drive. They just drove over, and there was guys like a pit crew that just switched out batteries, and the buses came in.
Yeah.
And then they're both private. There was no public bus system, so he went out of business because he had a business debt, and the rival bought him and just kept their combustion engines.
Oh,
And-
what a shame.
But yes, this was one of the first bus companies, and that was 1916 was when they either started or went out of business. But that was the
That was the model.
short-lived.
public transportation in the United States used to be electric too, with trolleys, and then
Yeah.
they got replaced by combustion engines in the car.
Well, General
Interesting how
Motors
long it
bought up
takes
the
us
trolley systems and
Go back.
destroyed them. So. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I think we can go forward if the chair agrees.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So the vast public is not commenting. What do we need to do now? Approve the minutes? So I read them and they looked fine to me.
Yeah, I believe so too, but could you just flip them through them really quick, please, Bob? Yeah. Yeah, I just wanted to jog my memory, and I believe I had the same thing, that everything was fine. Good job.
Motion to
Yeah.
approve?
I approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Minutes are approved. Okay, subcommittees. Do we want to go through the whole list?
Yeah, it's may as well. I think
Okay.
it's just what we've started doing.
First one up that I think we have anything to say about is Climate Action Plan.
Well,
Well, we could ask Camellia.
Oh, sorry. You're right. I should.
Brisbane Acres preservation concerns. Have you
Staff
guys,
is-
have you talked with?
They're waiting for staff to
Okay.
move that along.
Okay.
okay.
It's your turn now,
I'm-
Barb. Barbara and Glenn.
So, would you like to go, or I could go because you did the last time, or?
Doesn't matter to me.
Okay. Well, we started off down the road of looking more at Berkeley's ordinance, and then we sort of got jump tracks onto the.
Excuse me for interrupting. This is a building energy disclosure.
Oh yes, sorry. I should have started off there. Building energy disclosure ordinance, because the building sector, heating, cooling is almost a third of our energy consumption in this country. So really got to tackle that piece at some point, especially since so much of the building stock is existing and not affected by new construction ordinances. So we were looking at the building ordinance, and Glenn brought in a wonderful thing from.
The American Council on an Energy Efficient Economy.
Great, yes, that was it. And it got us to look at a particular website that name is also blanking. Huh?
Illinois.
Yeah, from Illinois, and it was called
EQ.
EQ. See, you should just like do it. So the EQ website was one I had heard of, but hadn't looked at it because it wasn't really local. But because it was mentioned on the council's website, we looked at it and found it to be really amazing. So many of these online tools are really awkward and incomplete and take forever to get you where you need to be. But this was, we were just playing around for a second, put in an address, bing, bing, bing. And so we decided rather than reinvent the wheel and try to start from scratch, we would see if staff could bring this forward to the ABAG and maybe it could go up the chain. And we're thinking so big here. We're hoping the whole state of California could adopt this system. And what it does is you just put in you can either just put in your address, and it collects data from the either the MLS or public title, and based on your building size, age, gives you some performance metrics, can make recommendations. You can also actually go in and put in your actual bills for more detailed specific recommendations.
No, I think it actually has the electricity, the energy usage, because they've coordinated with the utilities in Illinois.
Yeah.
So when you
Okay.
put an address into it, you get the actual energy use of the building. And then the metric that they give is how does your building stack up energy use-wise compared with...
to the others, yeah.
Yeah.
But then it goes on to actually give recommendations about what you can do.
And how much money you'll save.
And how much money, it gives like some estimates in terms of payback periods and cost, what you should expect to be paying a contractor, sort of a range. So it just kind of took all of the walls between people and making these upgrades and these decisions and just knocked them all down like dominoes. And we just thought that was like the keenest thing ever. So you want to add anything to that, Glenn?
Just that we think California should have a system like this, and we've asked Karen to bring it up at the next county meeting. Is that right?
County, stop waste.
Yeah.
Everywhere?
And I wonder if maybe somebody should actually call this outfit that does it and just get some history on how they did it and more about what kind of organization it is. Do you think?
Oh yeah, we asked staff to do that to see if they're already expanding into other states, because they could already be having a dialogue with California and we wouldn't necessarily know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and you were going to talk to Lisa Ponacor. Yeah.
And you were
Stop
talking to
waste,
Lisa
yeah.
Corvo and stuff.
Yeah, so it's kind of knocked us upside the head and made us think differently about building energy disclosure and how we, incentivize people to do what we hope they will do.
Because they'll be able to see it right there in black and white.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so if we were going to do an ordinance, I suppose we could. Well, I don't really know what an ordinance would look like. Maybe we don't need an ordinance. Maybe we need that instead of an ordinance. So we're still sort of thinking about that.
Possible for us to get a link so for
Hit your button. It's right in front. It's the one in the front. There you go. No?
It doesn't work.
Oh well. Sorry.
Okay. So
Well, just turn Megan's microphone so you can use that one.
is it possible for the rest of the committee members to get a link to this tool for us to review it or something?
Sure. Yeah, we can send that out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because right now we're kind of just listening to it, but we really have no idea what it does. So it would be good to be able to try it before.
It'd be very cool to see.
We had Bob had a friend's address, and we put that in, so we weren't able to see their PG&E data, but we had a specific address to have it immediately show us the data. So
Yeah, we did sort of a run through using that address just to see how the website worked, and it's just really, it's great.
And it's all over the state of Illinois. It's the whole state that's doing it?
Apparently, it's the whole state. The address we looked at was Chicago.
Chicago.
Do you remember if there were other cities on there or not?
It's a whole.
Yeah.
Was it the
It's
whole?
Illinois, so that's why I was just curious.
I don't know if it was the whole state, but there was a long list of cities, and so I believe it was Illinois Home EQ, so it seemed to be a statewide initiative. But
Yeah.
we'll get back with that.
Yeah,
Ooh.
they may not have gotten into some of the smaller
Suburbs and
suburbs,
farms
rural
and
areas,
whatnot,
if they
rural.
got different utility providers or something, but it did look like, as Bob said, basically a statewide.
And one of the cool things was that they got the utilities to give them the information about the energy use in these houses. And we were looking around at the meeting to try to find out if we could get, well, we asked Karen, I think, can we get energy use data on individual buildings from PG&E? And you said, I don't think we can. Is that right?
I don't think we can, but I think in that case it was you're the property owner looking up your address.
Uh-huh.
Get your own data. You can't necessarily see other people's data on that website. We didn't see the actual data because we couldn't.
That's
You
right.
didn't have a password or something, I'm sure, to get in.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, but it was really a cool website.
That's awesome.
It was
Yeah, I'd love
really
to
a
see the
cool
website. I mean, just to play in it and just.
And EQ is energy quotient instead of IQ, which we thought was catchy.
Yeah.
Gosh, that's awesome.
Oh, and they had a list of contractors on there. We think you can save $1,200 a year, and
Yeah.
here's a list
Smart.
of contractors.
I mean, hello, he's going to be come over. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was really good, and it's I don't know, it's sort of nice to think that there is something like that out there that that other states can
Adopt.
adopt
Well,
or
you may as well.
tweak
Somebody's
or
already done it, and
yeah.
take what process they did, and let's see if we can push it through.
Yeah, so we're all kind of excited about it. I mean, the Climate Action
were at
Plan
Twitter.
Subcommittee may not sound like really an exciting thing. I tell you that.
I can
day.
see how this would pump your blood, get your blood going.
Yeah.
No, we were sort of pumped seeing this.
Yeah, I mean that's what you're on that committee for, right? Really.
Yeah, so it was good. So are we done with Climate Action Plan?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, that was basically our one intervening meeting, and that's what we did. We got
Oh.
really excited
whole
about
thing.
EQ Illinois.
Yeah.
So Day in the Park.
Kima
and
and Meg.
Megan.
Well, we went on our subcommittee hike. This is what we do now, which was great because I had gone up to the side of a mountain that I had not seen before, and we just it was really fun. Saw some dirt. I think you already had that cleaned up, didn't you? It's gone. Did I tell you? There was some, did I send you an email after? There's somebody dumped their garbage up on, and so I think I sent you an
Where?
email because it's not there anymore. Firth Park,
Frith.
top of Firth.
Up in Frith Canyon, right at the edge of where the burlap
Bags.
was.
no.
Pretty much as far as the work got done, right there at the end of it, somebody had dumped a bag of trash.
Anyway, I was up there 2 days ago. It was gone. So,
Yeah.
and you go up all the time, but it was really fun. But a couple things that we talked about, of course, with the Day in the Park, we've got. What was the date again? Because I asked. Actually, it was
Has
on
that
the
been
phone
announced?
with Teresa.
October 7th.
October 7th. Okay.
Oh, 7th.
So we're back to the first.
Yeah, I knew it. We didn't have a date.
Not
yet.
the first Saturday. It's the second.
It would be if it's 7th. There can't be 2 Saturdays in 7 days.
Right.
Oh, that's right. Okay, sorry.
So October 7th. Cool. Excellent. For some reason, I couldn't remember, and I did not go back through and look at the meeting note. It says I said I was going to. The electric car station, that was nixed, right? To have a station there. We're not going to be able to do that.
A charging or an electric car demonstration?
I thought it was charging station we were going to
Oh,
have.
that was last year.
That was
And
that-
They backed out. It was
Oh,
the-
okay.
The company that had solar.
Right, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
But we could have an electric car there, an electric bike there for people to kind of look at and have conversations with.
Yeah, and I could contact that solar charging company again. They were, in front of the state capitol building in Sacramento, so it was
Got
getting a
bombarded,
lot of
I'm sure.
traction. Yeah,
And now that they're larger, I'm assuming in the last year, so maybe check with them again.
yeah, we can do that.
And then did we want to have like an electric bike? Because I have a friend who has an electric bike in town, and now he'd be happy to bring it down. And Barbara's got her car. We could bring that down for.
Do you
I
want?
said I want to bring mine down after Greg caught the front fender on the garage door.
Uh-oh.
It looks a little.
You could always ask Sharon to bring her Tesla down.
Get somebody else to bring their nice, represent
Tesla.
yes thing down.
Since Bob had looked up Monday Motorbike, we could have him contact them and see.
I was
If
going to say, so maybe we, contact those two, the bike company and even the electric bike and the motorcycle.
but I don't think people could test drive a motorcycle.
They're not going to let you test drive it, but you could look at it. You could have somebody else do it. I don't know. You'd have to sign off. There's a lot of legal, because we used to do, when I did an electric car, way before anybody had one 10 years ago, I did an event, and anyone who wanted to drive it actually had to sign a waiver.
When I met the guys, it was for a different purpose, and I just kind of asked, and so they did say that kind of informally they do demos during the weekend, and so I asked if they had any interest in any kind of a promotional thing, and they were all on board. So
I would think so.
if that's the direction you guys want to go, I can go circle back with them and
Yeah.
give them the dates, and so I'll do that
Okay.
and work with. Yeah,
Thank you.
I'll report back and see what if they're still on board with that.
And should we check with that's the bike company, not the motorcycle?
Yeah, and they were the ones that said that they did demo rides on the weekend. So I
The
don't,
bike company.
the bicycle.
Bicycle.
Yeah, yeah, and I've never had a conversation regarding the motorcycles. I don't know where they are in production or.
What they're even doing yet.
Yeah, so I just haven't talked to them.
Okay. If you wouldn't mind, that would be awesome.
sure,
You
I'll
give
do
them
that.
a call. Thanks.
Do it this week.
Thank you. Yeah, because I still think that's just huge for us, and I think for more people to know about it, the better. We're going to continue again with the shadow boxes because that went, really well. I did talk to Ecology. I've had a question. Ask Karen if we should invite Ecology again. Well, I already called her for some other things that Barbara and I were doing. We had a nice conversation, and Teresa said, absolutely, we will come back. And she also wants to come in and do another presentation to us.
Is that Ecology or Scavenger?
South San Francisco Scavenger.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
So I think their
Teresa.
diversion report is due sometime in August, so I think we're targeting September to have them
Yeah.
come present. And we went through what the questions that we wanted to have them address, so we'll give them to those in advance.
I was just going to say. 'Cause
Those to them.
Yeah, perfect.
Have them be ready. And
Yeah.
What sort of thing would they do if they came?
Well, what we did last year was really just having someone there representing them in case people had questions. Because it's like, I think my biggest question myself is that dang plastic bag. Like, is this good or is this not? And he's kind of like, it's one of those borderline things. Like, yeah, probably not, but Meg, a few people do, or it's okay. But it's that the plastic bags are still. If you have this plastic, this plastic, this plastic, what kind of plastics can you guys really recycle? Mm-hmm. That's always the biggest question now. I think we all know the boxes, although it's always nice to have those milk cartons that say they're recyclable, that are big fat liars, that you cannot recycle those. They are not recyclable because of the metal inside.
Well, don't say milk carton. Those are the Tetra Paks.
Tetra Paks. I meant thank you. Tetra Paks. Not the milk cartons. I scared Glenn for a second.
Is
The
that-
Tetra
You
Paks.
Did, yeah.
the ones that can sit on the shelf with.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Tetra Paks are even though they say there, and you go on their website, and I went on their website, and it says South San Francisco Scavenger will do this. Oh, no, they don't. So they're kind of liars.
Yeah, they'd have to take it apart, I think, which.
They don't
Yeah.
do it.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Right.
But anyway, so we want to bring the toolboxes back to the table again, our toolbox, and really explain to people more and make them more aware that you can check them out at the library. I think it's been pretty successful. I forgot to ask, what's that gal's name?
Yeah, I
It's in
talked to her and she
Belgium.
said they're going out pretty regularly.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
And then Kima, you still have ours? Have you gone through that? Because I want to. Who's got
It's
it?
here. It's here at City Hall.
Oh, it was Michael that had it.
He turned it back in.
Oh, he did.
Oh, it's ready for me to pick up?
Okay.
Oh, I didn't know that you hadn't. Yeah, you can.
I hadn't gotten it yet. Can I get it tonight?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Cool. Awesome. There you go. Next. So we did want to do that again because I think now that we have it in the library to make it, let people know that because some do and some don't, even though it's been checked out, which is awesome. Of course, we'll do brochures on the table as we always have. And that was pretty much it. Does anybody else have any comments or anything else they think we should?
I do. Scavenger last year had someone at the
Yeah.
stations at
He
the
stayed-
recycling garbage compost, right? At our booth or
At our booth, he had somebody.
Okay.
We had the garbage cans. I think they brought the garbage out, and then Chris stayed with us to answer questions.
okay. And
What about something involved, some kind of contest with some little prizes or something? I'm thinking about three bin system maybe and a garbage quiz for kids.
Oh, that'd be great. That'd be fun.
That's a great idea. So, okay. We'll talk more about that. I'm trying to figure out what age group we target. So what kind of questions do we ask? So we want to ask children,
Present them,
elementary,
give them
junior
a
high.
pile of
But-
trash and make them.
Oh,
sort it.
that's a great, I see what you're saying.
The kids are often more savvy than the adults, so I don't think you really need to age discriminate.
But I see what you're saying. So here, do you want to win? We'll win something. So Kim and I'll think about that a little more. I might call you and think about, because you've got kids, you do the teaching and,
Well, I don't have kids.
No, but I mean, you're a teacher, so.
Well,
you're
college.
in front of children. Well, okay, that's
College.
true.
Oh, they're children.
Yes, they are.
Sorry, Justin.
But anyway, I like that idea. Get the kids like, where does this? It's like putting the square pet bug into the round hole when they're young. But
I don't know. It might be fun to do some hands-on
Yeah.
thing, and have some little favors or something that you could give out.
Something.
Either that or a piñata. I guess that was pretty popular. The carbon footprint piñata.
Oh.
The big black foot
Yeah.
full of candy.
You were here for that, weren't you, Megan? Oh, okay.
Yeah, we did that. When was that? 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, that was because it had to be 4 because I came here 3 years ago, and I think I've been on now. This is my.
So it must have been the year before you got here.
Yeah.
But something to bring people over the booth and sort of get kids, and put a label on it, carbon footprint. Natalie did end up finding a big black foot.
She had it made.
Did she?
Yeah, she had it made.
Oh, funny.
But that would be fun to do. Just something to,
Bring the kids. I like the fact that they would have to, instead of they could care less about that. They just want to see the candy. But I love the idea myself of that hands-on, having them say, okay, what bucket does this one go in? What bucket does this one go in? And then give them some, even if you give them some candy, or give them, I don't know, we'll think of something that's ecologically minded.
The only drawback is it could be kind of a mess. But you could find some interesting trash, Tetra Paks and.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. All right. I like that idea.
Or who could do it fastest might be. That would be another way to add excitement.
I just think if they know about it, it'll make me happy.
If you wanted to do it like a contest, a time thing, you could have it be at noon or something and have it be announced.
12
like you
noon,
did
we're going to have
with
a
the,
contest to see who could
like you did with the piñata years ago. It was at a certain time. It brought people
get the
together.
trash into the bag the fastest at the correct garbage into the correct bin.
And win something.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you're
Idea.
doing it a time thing, then you are going to age discriminate. So I just wanted to.
Why?
How's that?
Well, I just don't think little kids could do it. I mean, they just can't move as fast or cover as much.
Well, if
do
we
8
get a
pack.
whole bunch of people and we find we do it at 10:30 and we have like a bunch of 7, 8-year-olds and a bunch of 16-year-olds, I probably would do 2 separate. I would immediately, we can go to 2 separate if there's a discrimination in the age. So anybody 12 and to 16 would be in one, and anybody, 7 to 11 would be in one.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Okay. But I'm glad you thought of that because
Maybe we do it at the end of or kind of later in the day when the trash cans are full, and then we can use that trash as what gets sorted.
we could, especially when we find out if it's not in the right bin.
Yeah.
So that was pretty much it. And I think I like that idea, Glenn, thank you, of adding something a little, hands-on, touchy-feely prize. So,
Anything from staff or other committee members, or you guys?
no, not right now. I think we're good. I mean, because we pretty much have the toolkits already done. We've got the shadow boxes from last year. I think Natalie has them somewhere.
Right.
Good thing they're not in my garage because you can't find anything in there right now. That's really probably it.
Well, the bike and the motorcycle.
Well, and the bike and the motorcycle, which Bob's already doing. So, and I think that's good. And then you can talk to Sharon. I know she's got a Tesla. I think it'd be cool. I'm sure everybody wants to come touch and feel it if she'd be okay with that. I'm sure she's going to be doing stuff at the Lions Club, but we can always ask. And then Gerard Yee's got an electric bike. We'll see what he says. So we may not need his bike. If you want to borrow it, he would let you borrow it if you want to check on a Placer.
All right. Are you going to do any native plant, invasive plant?
No, I don't think this year we will.
Okay.
I mean, we'll have our brochures and whatnot out to talk to people, but I think we'll focus it more on the things that we have going on right now. I think it will be enough.
Oh, that reminds me. Could I pick up some native plant or some invasive species brochures? We've been out of those on the library corner for a while, and I should really restock that.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah.
People are taking them. That's great.
Yeah.
Cool.
Great.
So that was pretty much it. Do you want me to continue about what Teresa said at South San Francisco Scavenger?
That's fine. With me.
Just while I'm here, because I don't think it fits under any other committee. Kind of the sustainability page actually is a little bit about that. So I'll stop and wait until we get to that piece.
Okay.
That's kind of what I was talking to her about.
So environmentally preferred purchasing and staff training. I don't think we've done anything about that lately.
But it's still in the forefront of our minds, and we're
Yes, very much.
Hearing.
The first thing we think about every morning when we wake up.
maybe not every morning, but at least every week.
Festival tree.
And
Yay.
that's also on me to move along, Michael and Megan, right? To
Yeah.
move along the matrix of options and then circle back and talk with that ad hoc subcommittee.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, getting that moving. And I did want to say, just because it was on the record last time, that I did find, just doing a search, that we really are been in a really great place for spring and summer to cut the tree and trim the tree. So we're actually, what Tim did was correct. So I just wanted that to be in our minutes.
And I can find you more websites that say you don't trim cedars.
It's weird because everywhere I looked on the internet, it said yes, yes, yes. So,
Okay.
so it's spring and summer. So I kind of sent it out to everybody.
Yep.
It actually looks halfway decent. A lot better than it did.
Habitat Restoration Days, looks like nobody's here, but there's still coastal.
I did go, if you want me to
Oh, yeah, please.
talk a little bit about that. It was great. I mean, we pulled a lot of ivy and ivy and ivy, and everywhere I see ivy, I just, even when I went hiking the other day, I'm like, ivy. I started pulling it. It was great. I think we probably had about 25 people that showed up, and we got a lot of ivy out of there. And that was pretty much our day, pulling ivy. But the whole side of that mountain looks amazing. Kostanaw, yeah.
Okay, great. I wonder, is there anything that could be done to keep the ivy from coming back, like looking at planting or?
Bad juju stuff that we can't put in the ground. Maybe we should look into that. It's not a bad idea. What about the company that came and did Firth Park?
Right.
Maybe we talk to them because that's what they do.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like,
Yeah.
not
See if
pull
there's
ivy every year.
something else that we can do besides every year going back and
Right,
doing the
same thing.
same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
That and the Scottish broom, every time I go up that mountain, I could just be up there for 3 hours pulling those little puppies out because they're this big. I can pull them. Actually, I can pull them about that big, and then I don't get a hike in, though. So that'd be great if you can follow up on that.
Until we get an invasive species ordinance, we will never get rid of the darn things. Next
Ivy
item.
is something.
So, Megan, have you met with Michelle at all about?
We have not met on that yet. This was kind of a new, the ordinance, just the two of us, so we have not, no.
Yeah, and I had said that you guys wanted to know what everybody else was doing, and we probably want to have a staff person work on
Look
that
into
committee
that.
too, and
Yeah.
we're hoping
We'll have one
to
soon.
get the new staff person soon. But I don't, probably not by the next meeting, but by September.
Okay, cool.
I think I also said that I would talk to my stepmother about what Florida's doing, and I forgot to do that when I was down there, but I do know her phone number. So
That would be a good thing. I'm glad you have her phone number. Just give her a buzz and let her know.
yeah.
That'd be great. And I, have actually contacted the gentleman in San Mateo County and just to touch base to see if there's anything new that's come up. So I'll do some research on the website and talk to Michelle about it.
Another possible contact on that would be the California Invasive Plant Council.
Yeah, that's who I meant, not San Mateo. It's the
Okay.
California Invasive Plant Council. I've actually spoken to them too, so. And he actually led me toward their website and some areas in there which I did not go to. I made the phone call. That was as far as I went.
So do they have a section on ordinances?
He does.
Oh,
But they're still, I think, the same thing, struggling to make that solidified.
Uh-huh. I think in Florida they do it at the county level, so we may not be able to do it
The California, yeah.
locally, but it'd be nice to look into it.
Yeah,
And maybe push it with the county.
I think so, especially if the California state has it.
Yeah.
So, all right. I'll bring that to the next meeting and talk to Michelle about it.
Okay, thanks. So Lippman Science Fair, I guess, Barbara, you want to go back on the subcommittee for the science fair?
Yeah, I thought since my son's no longer a Littman student, I would be on that subcommittee as well.
That would be great.
Return to that.
And it's fine to have two people do it. You can
Yeah.
split the duties up. Okay.
Go up and look and decide which ones. Cool.
So that's not till January, is that
Yeah.
right?
January, February, after the Christmas.
So lighting ordinance, you're on that one too?
Yeah, we haven't done anything about that.
It's another one with, we get a staff person on board. We can get that moving.
Yeah.
I think I sent you something some time ago from the association, the Nights, Dark Skies Society or
Yeah, a
something that
couple
had a
years ago.
sample on
Right.
it.
They have a model ordinance. Yeah.
Okay, so,
Good starting point. Definitely. Yeah.
yeah, okay.
Called Dark Skies?
It's called the Dark Skies Association, I think.
I like
is what
that.
It's called. And yeah, they do have a sample ordinance.
That's awesome.
I think I put that on the questions for the position is if you were tasked with writing a lighting ordinance and you had, no background knowledge, what resources would you use to start? So figured, get the
Okay.
information.
Yeah, why not? Okay, open space plan update request to city council. That's Michael, Michelle, and Camelia. And Camelia, you're it.
So that one is, I think, dependent on the Brisbane Acres preservation concerns.
Brisbane Acres Preservation is the first one on the list, and the city attorney thought he had brought that to council, and he hadn't, so he's gearing up to
Okay.
Oops.
Oopsie.
to do an update to council in the fall. They're not meeting, they're just doing Baylands in August, so September, October at the latest.
Okay.
And I'll let you guys know.
All right.
And on the open space plan update, that's again on me to put together what we came up with when we met as a subcommittee. It's been a little while.
Okay. So OSEC library shelf, Barbara and Megan.
We did some stuff. We tore it
Yeah.
apart.
Yeah, we tore it all apart, and then Megan sent me a few links, and I put together where two ideas were, kind of beating the summer heat without air conditioning. So I put together a list of 21 different ideas on how to stay cool and keep your home cool without air
Oh, good.
conditioning or energy or anything like that. So I put that all up, and then our other idea was zero waste. So Megan sent me some stuff on that. So I put together
Kind of bullet points.
kind of bullet points, and I got little samples of some of them. I actually, usually, I think in the past when I've tackled this issue, I kind of tackled it from the recycling perspective, but this time I decided, based on what Megan had sent me, that it seemed like more easy and concise to say, well, what does actually go in the garbage? So I kind of tackled the question from the reverse, because I think, so it just seemed like more appropriate to the amount of space we had. And so I got little samples and made little like little touch it, feel it cards for all the things so people know what a Tetra Pak is or Mylar, and didn't really get into the film plastic thing, but some of the other stuff like plasticized paper. And I asked the libraries, but it was kind of functional and minimal. And Megan was going to try and come back and gussy it up at some point, because it's kind of, like I said, it's not very visually engaging at this point. It's informative, but not eye-catching. And I also asked the library staff if they would put some time into, again, making it more eye-catching. And last time I was there, they hadn't done it yet, but that's okay. You know, I'm sure somebody will get to it. I've kind of put a lot of stuff out there, and with Megan's help, and somebody else can make it pretty.
Carbell, that was her name.
Yeah.
Carbell. Interesting name.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, we're almost there.
Parkside Plan, Kima.
I've been to every meeting.
Yeah?
Have you?
No, there are no meetings, so
Well, they're talking about it in the planning commission.
there hasn't been a.
I thought there was a meeting
Oh wait, Parkside Plan.
Parkside Plan. I thought there was a meeting last Tuesday or went Tuesday, and then I thought I had it on Wednesday in my calendar, so I missed it.
Yeah. I think it was Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they haven't called me back in. Like, so when I originally did that, I went in, and gave sort of the opinion they collected feedback from stakeholders, and I provided feedback sort of on behalf of open space and ecology. But that's really all that's happened since then.
Oh.
I think I was acting as representative because
Yep.
I was the chairperson of the committee. So.
Okay.
So yeah, sorry to be so glib about. I've been to every meeting. I have not been to every meeting. I was getting that mixed up with the bike ped master plan.
Okay.
You go to a lot of meetings.
Something else I need to read. Yipes.
Sustainability Webpage Committee, Subcommittee. That's Megan and Camelia.
Yeah.
So my understanding is that Bob has made some updates to the website, right, based on the meeting.
Since when?
Yeah, not in the past month, but I think that was about May.
Yeah.
Around May, I did added the toolkit brochure, and then I think just updated some of the other links, but I haven't looked at it since then, so I don't remember exactly.
Well, I went through and was working with Barbara on the library shelf about zero waste. I found some really interesting links, actually. I looked at San Francisco's and I was like, wait a minute, that's not us. And I had to switch it over. But I definitely found some interesting links that I'll send over to both of you guys to look at. But I think there's probably one I'd like to take off of there. There's one's just some lady's blog, like, blah, blah, blah. I think of that when I think of blogs. But it didn't do much for me, but there was a couple of others that are new that I hadn't seen before that are not on our website. So I'll send those over. Maybe we can add those and take one off. Again, and that was the reason I had called Teresa at the South San Francisco Scavenger, and they have a new program. I don't think we talked about this, but it's only been 1 year. It's teaching restaurants and other companies about their food scraps and decreasing the garbage service. Did we talk about that? It's called what did she call it? It's a funny program. Anyway, it's a new program. So it ends up becoming a break even, but it's really going in and teaching the restaurants and again, the people who have a lot of food, the scraps and where they should put them and how they recycle them and what they can and can't. And it just really decreases the garbage service and they get a break in the cost of their bins when they participate. Oh. So I thought it was really great. She wanted to come in and talk to us a little bit more about that too. So when she does come in, the one thing she did was it basically is a break even for them. So they don't really are going to make a lot of money, but they are going to break even and be doing so. She suggested that, she said, hopefully the companies have a sustainability goal, so they'll want to participate. But she also suggested that when we go into our local restaurants, to just kind of mention it and nudge them. And I'll get the name of the program again and send it off to you guys. But I'm trying to see if I have it some in here that I can't read.
Does the city have on its website a page for, are you thinking about doing business in Brisbane or are you a Brisbane business?
Yeah.
So maybe that would be a good link to put on there?
Yeah?
I mean, I like the concept that you brought up about businesses having a sustainability goal. That might be something to explore in terms of how we could engage them to.
And if they don't, give them, here's what other businesses have done. Because I'm sure most businesses are out there at least.
Well, there's the whole green business program, which kind of feeds into that same thing.
But
part of what you would.
But even if they're not certified, the fact that there's a financial incentive for business in this might, might lure some of them into doing it.
Yeah. Even if it's a flat, we can kind of.
Yeah.
She said basically it comes out to flat, to be honest. But she said it's just a really great program, and they've just only had it for a year. So she'll come and talk to us a little bit more about that,
Okay.
too.
Great.
Okay, waste stream. Was this what we were doing with Park and Rec to get them to get waste separated at public
Right.
events? Was that what this is?
I don't know. This has been on the list for quite a long time, so I'm not sure what initiated it, but it can be anything we want it to be, I guess. And we have, Mission Blue may not have kicked off yet. Like I think I said, we'd ordered the bins for inside the building and had coordinated. I know the coordinations happened with Scavenger about how we're going to pick up compost once we add it there. So
Oh, great.
it's still our test area. I don't know if the bins. Yeah, you know what? I think the bins were delivered in the past week or so to us. So the program is soon to kick off.
Okay. So there doesn't seem like anything that this committee needs to do together with Park and Rec. I mean, they seem pretty keen on the
Supportive.
idea in the first
Right.
place. So
Yeah, I mean, if you want to meet and talk about it, we can. I think staff's idea was there's a process to implement at each location, and that we would start with Mission Blue, and then we'd hit, probably the community park is the next priority. If the committees want to talk about how we implement, we could set up a meeting, but
well, training might be a good idea
yeah.
for both places.
Yeah, and so in a public place like the park, you're talking about training staff.
Yeah.
I presume. And so at Mission Blue, there's a limited staff, and that's pretty easy to do, and that's going to be part of it, obviously.
Okay.
Is train those building attendants on how to facilitate, and maybe there are more people possibly. With
Well, the
park.
volunteers, I think, because a lot of, at least after the concerts.
Yeah,
um,
so I think we would hope that the building attendant would facilitate that with whoever's using the facility, because they're the person that's the main contact. when the
Yeah,
facility's
okay.
used.
Well, it sounds like it's moving along, so maybe
Yeah,
we don't need to do anything.
By keeping it on here, keep pinging staff, and we'll tell you how it's going.
Okay. So I guess the waste stream subcommittee is going to remain a mystery for right now. Neither of the members are here. Okay, anything else from subcommittees?
No.
Nope.
I had just looked at my favorite film plastic website since that question came up. And it says it should either be marked number 2 HDPE or number 4 LDPE. And if you can put your fingers in it and stretch it, it's almost certainly recyclable film plastic.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
We don't really have to remember all those.
LTDs. We just have to remember if we can put our hands in it and stretch it, we're in good shape.
2, 4, stretch.
Can you forward that?
2, 4, stretch. I don't know.
Can you forward that link?
Yep.
That's a nice little. It's like
Yeah.
a climate fact in a way, and maybe
We could add that to our,
maybe we could get it in the star or
Website.
something. just a little box in
link
the
to-
star.
because I do think that still is really the biggest question. At least it is for me. Every time
Thank you, Barbara. You are the only person on the planet who would have a favorite plastic film.
she has others too, just that's her favorite.
Yeah, this is the one I always refer to when I'm like,
Okay.
So it's the 7th.
So here's our calendar. And what are we doing with this exactly?
I mean, this is mostly just to tell us that this month we work on Day in the Park.
Okay.
Habitat restoration happened early this year,
Okay.
and next month we might bring up whether the committee wants to look at doing anything for Bay Day, which is in October.
Okay.
Okay.
Isn't that is that the coastal cleanup?
No, because the coastal cleanup is in September. This
September.
is it was something that San Francisco Bay, some organization, had activities on the bay, and I don't know if they did cleanups. It was more like awareness and interactive family type stuff. So I know that the city adopted that day as Bay Day along with other organizations, but we didn't have any events last year because we heard about it,
Okay. Who knew?
close to the time, right? So we'll send you information about that.
So
Looks-
moving on.
looks good. Okay.
I think we just went over
Sharing committee member matters.
committee member matters in detail, so.
No, I actually have something that's not a subcommittee matter, but
Actually, I do.
Go for it.
yeah. So we need to talk a little bit about the Climate Action Planning Conference.
Good. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's every 2 years, and I went last time, and I would like to go again if I can. But if anybody else would like to go, I'm perfectly happy to step aside. There's not much point in sending more than 1 or 2 people. I think it's a pretty small conference.
It's the Cal Poly campus in San Luis Obispo. It's
Yeah.
August 24th and 25th.
25th. So
Oh,
those
it's
are
August
Thursday and
24th
Fridays.
and 25th.
And the attendance is $100 unless you get the student thing, which is $30. And the big deal last year was the accommodations, because there wasn't anything. I don't know. Maybe Glenn suggested maybe there's something good on Airbnb. But last year I had looked for like a conventional hotel room, and it was all like really expensive and booked up, and bed and breakfast. So I ended up using the campus housing, which was not great, but was right there in the middle of the conference and a little bit cheaper. So
How much was the campus housing?
I don't remember. Do you remember what it was, Karen?
No. Because you submitted on that?
Yeah,
How many? I don't.
I think it was like
Between
200
yeah,
or something.
between 2 and 3. How'd you stay? How many nights did you stay?
It
3
was,
nights?
I think I stayed 3 nights because I came in the day before.
Yeah, so it was somewhere between 2 and 3, but I don't remember then.
Yeah, it was a little stiff, especially since you're basically just in a dormitory.
How big is it? I mean, would it make sense for 2 of us to go?
It's a dual track. So if two people went, you could cover everything. One person goes, then you have to pick between the 2 sessions each time period. You can only go to one of them.
Yes, I'd express some interest in going, but it really depends on what the city can pay, because I am financially challenged at the moment.
Yeah, so there is a travel and training budget of $500 for the fiscal year.
So if you guys found a good place to stay, maybe check it out now. Airbnb, you guys could probably book.
Well, and I could also drive, so.
Yeah. It let me click through to the housing accommodations here. I didn't think it was going to let me until I registered, and it's $79 a night.
Oh,
Well,
that's
not
good.
terrible.
But yeah, by the time you get 3 nights,
But if both of you are there and you get 2 beds,
that's per room.
I mean, you
per
guys
bed.
are cool. Oh, per bed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So-
Well, we should talk about, if both of us went, it would probably take most of the training budget.
I don't think we have any other.
Yeah, I mean, year to year we've done that, and the invasive species.
Yeah, I went to
Council,
one.
That was a 1-day.
Yeah, that was like pretty
nominal.
inexpensive.
Yeah, so this is just a thing that has been, in the area reasonably enough that people were interested in. I went to one in Sacramento the first year that I was on the committee that was an adaptation forum, but it was kind of everything sustainability. That was also really good, but I think it was probably a little more, actually.
So when do you do back, Barbara, from vacation?
Let's not talk about that on here.
Oh, okay. I still have to do some checking with school
Yeah.
to find out whether I can go or not. And, we should talk about a joint effort.
Sure.
So-
Absolutely.
And then the only other thing I wanted to just mention real quickly is I know we had talked about the community garden and maybe having some sort of a forum where we would allow, just have a forum where people, or a blog or whatnot, where people could communicate if you have a garden and you'd love someone to help work it with you. And I think we kind of decided we didn't really want to take that responsibility, but I'm going to probably do this with Kima, and we're going to just see between the 2 of us kind of where that goes and see if we have communication, and maybe write a little thing should you choose to do this on your own.
Right, so we're talking about neighbor gardens.
Neighbor to neighbor
Someone else's
garden.
property to grow
Yeah.
your plants and vegetables. And I did also ask the city attorney about that.
Okay.
And he said we wouldn't want the city to have an
Any-
official part, but we could draft an agreement that could be used as a template between neighbors.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be
Maybe
good.
we should get that template, Kima. So we're just talking about it. So we thought that would be,
Kind of do a pilot
do a pilot program.
You could put it on Nextdoor.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. Put it on Nextdoor and just kind of have an open forum for people. Hey, this is what we're doing. And
Yeah.
blah. So we haven't gone any further with it except for discussion. So we'll let you know if it goes off that the next level.
It's not really
A catchy name like garden sharing
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
Anything else? All right, next
Yeah, we
item.
kind of missed the garden season.
I don't have a lot on staff updates. I think came up a couple last month. Some of the things were Michelle's items, and she's not here, but she had asked about trees, and particularly at the marina. We had an irrigation issue, a challenging irrigation issue earlier in the summer, and now that it's fixed, those palm trees have gotten extra water, being watered. It's going to take them a bit to recover, but we always want to watch, particularly trees, plants, and see if they can recover with getting irrigation back. In a lot of cases, they can. So she had concern that they looked not so great the last meeting. We had also we talked about the echo mat that we're thinking about using as we replace turf and for a drip irrigation system that is subterranean and uses even less water. And the idea had come up about using that at the dog park as a test area, since we will resod the dog park. But the dog users are interested in irrigation. Also flushes off dog urine and excrement, so we want to stick with a standard irrigation system.
Yeah, I can totally see that now that you say that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it was a good idea. I like
It would have been a great test project had it been the right thing.
Right. What else? You guys took a couple of the things because I was going to talk about the conference. And we did a couple of applications in the past month with Justin being on board. Staff was asked to, we submitted grant applications for TDA Article 3? Blanking on that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was through CCAG, the City County Association of Governments for San Mateo County. It was Transportation Development Act Article or TDA Article 3 funds. They allowed us to apply for a maximum of 3 projects. So one of the projects we're proposing is walkway improvements along the central Brisbane alley between Alvarado and San Benito, a little bit west of the school, where right now it's currently just a really steep dirt trail that even I, as an avid hiker, can't get up or down. So that it'd be good if we got some funding to improve that area.
That would be
Is it the really narrow one that drops off from the curb that
Yes.
goes by the house?
That's it, yeah.
Somebody on Facebook was just complaining about that one, saying they've been trying to get the city to do something about it for
perfect.
years.
We should
Yeah, I mean, that was
It's happening, yay!
that was part of the bike ped master plan too. I
Awesome.
advocated for that, but I live a couple houses down from that. I go up and down it all the time.
Yeah,
Okay.
I go up there with my daughter, and
yeah. I mean,
So we applied for a grant for a concrete stairway and the bollard lighting, like on the Bicentennial Walkway.
that's great and lovely.
Can I derail you for just a second?
Sure.
I was just thinking, can we? Is it possible to adjust the hours on the bollard lighting? Because I notice in the summertime it's on for quite a bit after it's light out. And I don't know if
what?
there's some requirements.
Yes, those do run on a timer,
Okay.
I understand. So let me.
I just
follow
thought
up
it
on
was
that.
wasted electricity.
You know,
It's like they're still on a winter schedule.
I think we're sort of on an, older technology by
Okay.
having those on a schedule, and we should look at what's involved in retrofitting for dusted-on sensors. That would be, and although I think they go off at a certain time at night, we don't necessarily want them on all night. I think there are sensors that can go on at dusk and then turn off on a timer, but I know that we manually adjust the timer for the seasons, and that seems pretty archaic.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fine. I mean, manually adjusting it twice a year personally, but it just doesn't seem like it's been adjusted this summer. but I could be wrong.
Yeah, and then that's a perfect like go request thing too.
Okay. Yeah, I don't.
I'll
I can't
pass it
use
on.
Go request, so
Oh,
I have GPS to. You guys don't care anyway, but
yeah, and there is a
Doesn't
website
work.
way to do it too. So,
Yeah.
but I'll pass that one on. Yeah.
yeah, I don't have Wi-Fi on my device, so it doesn't do quite as many fancy things.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and then the second project that we applied for is well, I don't know if you know. Last year we applied for funding from CCAG to do resurfacing improvements on the Crocker Trail.
Yeah,
And
I do.
after a long and challenging appeals process, we got funding for that. So to complement the surface improvements, we're also proposing putting in a lighting system there as well. So more lighting bollards. I don't know about the timing for that either, but it's a proposed project. So depending on the funding, if we receive it.
Right. There's
Yeah.
a grant application, so
Right.
I'm hoping to get that funded.
So we think people be using the Crocker Trail during the night. We need lights. So
Well, in the winter, when it gets dark.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, maybe not all night, but I'm definitely out walking at 5:30 in the morning in the winter. So
and evening if it gets dark at 5.
yeah,
That. And it wouldn't light up. We're sensitive to, and it also would cost too much to completely light up that trail. It would be spotlights in between, and it'd probably be advisable to still have a flashlight or a bike light or whatever. But it's going to make it you know where you're going on the path.
yeah.
Okay. That sounds.
Or maybe concentrate the lights on the far end of the loop where there's not as much ambient light. Because where it's kind of overhung on the far end it can be a little spooky.
Yeah, I mean
sometimes.
it's not finally designed at this point.
Yeah.
We asked for funding, and we're seeing if we get it.
Just throwing thoughts out there while we're talking about it, lest it get missed.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, and the last project is an interesting one. It's a project. It's a type that we've never done before. It's on Valley Drive, just out there between Bayshore and Crocker Trail. There's no bike lanes, or well, there is, but I wouldn't really call it a bike lane. It's just a 3-foot shoulder at this point. And there's only one sidewalk. Or there's a sidewalk on only one side of the street right now between the two. So on Valley Drive, we're proposing putting in a bike lane and bioswale areas, and basically doing a road diet, which is taking away one of the vehicle travel lanes in each direction and narrowing that, and then improving access for bikes, and then also adding a sidewalk on the side of the street where there isn't one currently.
That would be good.
So yeah, green infrastructure to treat stormwater runoff.
Yeah, that sounds really cool to me. I just don't know how are the businesses reacting to it at all? Because some of those businesses have pretty big trucks.
Yeah, at this point it's just a grant application,
Okay,
and
sure.
the lanes could be. There's a lot of space there, so the lanes could be wide
Okay,
than one lane.
sure.
But
Great.
it was proposed. We do need to start as part of. I think Keegan talked a bit about this. Keegan Black, when he presented about the trash capture devices, that the green infrastructure agencies are going to need to have a plan, and they're going to need to start implementing over the next period of time that I don't remember exactly in the future. And this was the county hired a consultant to kind of do a concept for each agency, and they looked at Valley Drive and suggested this green infrastructure in the beginning should be focused on commercial and industrial areas. So they suggested Valley Drive adding green infrastructure, and the grant would fund the bike lane and the sidewalk part, and we'd have to get a coastal conservancy grant or fund ourselves the green infrastructure part. So we're hoping to coordinate the two and be a demonstration project for that.
Cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Sidewalks are good.
Right. So I think that's all we have for staff updates.
Okay. Thanks, Karen.
Thank you.
So I think the next item on the agenda is adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. The meeting is adjourned.
Boy, Kiwi, you're so quick with that move to adjourn.
I know, I was
meeting
waiting
in
for the
August.
slide to pop up.
This says tonight, so it's August.
Thanks, everybody.
When's the next
So
meeting?
the next meeting is actually not July 26th. It is August something or other.
August 23rd, maybe?
My apologies. It's,
That's okay.
I'm thinking.
You recycled the slide from last month.
You just got to change it.
August 23rd.
August 23rd. Okay.
I thought so.
At 6:30. Be there or be square.
August 23rd?
If we go to the Climate Action Planning Conference, we might miss that.
We might.
Oh, I
Well, that might
didn't
be-
think about that.
I might still be coming home from the eclipse.
Oh, and Voltaire's playing at the Elbow right now.